We're now onto stage 20, so we're doing really well. We've only got 3 more stages to go. For this, we only need one new part. It's basically a pin with a large bush on the end where you can put the axle in. It's very similar to the friction pin, so let's open the friction pin, and then let's save this as a copy and make some changes. So go to File, Save As, and then choose Save as Copy and Open. And let's call this one Pin with Large Bush, and then you can save it, and you can close the original file. So let's make some changes. And if we look at our part, it's actually very similar to this normal pin. It's just got that extra section on the end where the axle fits in. The only things that we need to change on the original pin are the slot cuts. So first let's edit that sketch underneath the side slot feature. And we'll go normal 2, and we only need the slot cut on one side. But if we delete this slot on the left, then we'll lose our dimensions there. So instead of deleting it, let's select the slot and let's make it for construction. So this means it will be ignored by the feature. So we'll only have that slot cut on the right. So we'll retain all the dimensions in the sketch there. And we can then exit the sketch, and now you can see we've only got the slot cut on one side of the pin. There is actually a slot on the other side, but it's just 90 degrees from that original slot. So what we'll do is edit that middle slot sketch. Let's go normal 2, and let's sketch another slot on the left hand side. So get the slot tool, get a center point straight slot, start from the midpoint of this left hand edge, and then draw out a slot that's the same size as the middle one. So we can just select both of the slots and we can click Make Equal. Then let's exit that sketch, and you can see that slot cut is now on the end as well as the middle. So we've basically got one slot on the right hand side, and then we've got another slot on the left, but it's 90 degrees offset. We can now model up the section on the end where the axle goes in. Now we could make this with a series of circular extrudes, but actually in this case it's probably easier to use a revolve. So let's start a sketch on either the front plane or the top plane. It doesn't really matter because it's a revolve, so we can use either one. I'm going to choose the front plane, and then I'm going to go normal 2, and we'll start to draw our revolve profile. Because it's a revolve, I'm going to start with a center line that we can revolve around. So get the center line, let's go out from the origin to the side horizontally. Then just get the line tool, and let's draw something like this. So it's a profile that's kind of wider at the end, and then it's thinner in the middle, and then wider again, and then there's a little wide section here on the right, and then go back to the middle, and then close the profile. So this is basically a cross section of that area where the axle fits into. Now we can start to add some dimensions. So let's get the Smart Dimension tool. I'm going to start with this left-hand edge. And if you find that you try to add a dimension between lines and you get an angle instead of a distance, then it just means that the lines aren't parallel. So in this case, I need to make sure that that center line is completely horizontal. And then I'm going to start to add the actual sizes. So I'm going to click this line on the left. I'm also going to choose the center line. Now you can see we've got the dimension between those two lines following the mouse around. We could click to place this, but before we do, we're actually going to move to the other side of the center line. This will automatically double that dimension, so it will give you a full diameter dimension instead of just a radius. So we want to add that dimension, but then move over the center line before you place the dimension. And then let's set this to 7.4 millimeters. So it kind of looks like this dimension is just floating in space, but actually what it's showing is the full diameter distance there. So it's the distance to the center line and then the same distance again. And then moving on, the length here is 1.4 millimeters. The diameter here, so let's click on the line, let's choose the center line, let's move to the other side of the center line, and then let's set the diameter there as 5.7. And then this diameter here on the right should be 5.9. And the length of this part on the right is 0.8 millimeters. We'll then select these two lines and make those collinear, so they're spaced out at the same distance. We'll also choose those two lines again and we'll make them equal, so that makes them the same length, 1.4. And now to anchor the position in space, so we know the total length of the pin from one side to the other should be 23.7. So I'm going to write that in. And then finally, we know the distance inside here should be 5.1 millimeters, and that should fully define your sketch. So it overlaps the end of the pin a little bit like this. We can now use this profile to do a revolved boss base. So let's go to Features, Revolved Boss Base, and you'll probably automatically get a preview. That's because we've got a center line in the model. That's automatically been chosen as the axis of revolution. If you can't see the preview, just click in this box up here on the left, and then make sure you have that center line chosen for the axis of revolution. And we want to revolve 360 degrees. So if that preview looks good, press OK. And we've now added that new section on the end. And you can call that feature something like large bush. Now we need to cut out the axle shape in the middle. So let's start a sketch on this end face. Let's go normal 2, and let's draw our usual axle shape. You might be happy to hear that this is the last time we're going to have to draw this. It's a circle at the origin that's 4.8, and then it's our two center rectangles that are the same width, 1.8 millimeters, and then the length of them is set by that 4.8 circle using those tangent relations. And when you've drawn it, let's go to Features, Extruded Cut. Let's just choose those 5 areas in the selected contours. And then for the end condition, we don't want to cut all the way down here. We actually only want to cut to this face on the inside of the rim. So for the end condition, let's choose up to surface. And then for the surface, let's choose the end surface there. So we're just cutting inside that wider bit. That's why we've got that little rim on the end of the revolve that we added. Let's press OK, and let's rename that as Axle Cut. And then finally, we just need to add the slot in on this end. So let's start a sketch on the front plane. Let's get the slot tool and a center point slot and draw a slot in this kind of position. So the length of this slot should be 4.8, and you'll have to hold down Shift to dimension to the outsides of the arc. The thickness of it is 1 millimeter, and then the slot should be lined up horizontally with the origin. So if yours can move up and down, then just select the center point of that slot, also select the origin and press Make Horizontal. And then from the end here, we know that it should be half of 5.1, so it's 2.55 millimeters. And then that should fully define your sketch, so you can go to Features, Extruded Cut, and we can go through both. And let's call that feature Bush Slot. Then let's just change the color to that sort of light gray color. And then this part is complete, and you can save it. In the next video, we'll use this part to complete stage 20.